Uh, hey guys, maybe the video is not as much clear, but I'll try my best. Yeah, the topic I would like to talk about today, um, it's about the enemy, and what I'm going to talk about, it will depend on how you look at it. Um, like the recent uh, with the recent events and the way the world is governed and the way it's running today, we have been disarmed and we have been pacified in a way that we cannot detect. And we are living in a prison of our own making. What do I mean by this? Uh, Basically, all true human beings, uh, they are more powerful than the one who governs the world. As we like to say, the one who is in me is greater than the one who is in the world. Um, there is no way the enemy can defeat you because the enemy has been defeated. But then, here's the tactics. First of all, we are convinced that there is no enemy, that we are just ourselves, and we are the only ones in the universe. We are the top of everything, we are the center of everything. So we no longer pay attention to any warnings that have been given to us by our ancestors. And this is what pacification program does. You remember the natives of many countries, like well, they have become countries, but before then they were just continents, like Africa, North America, and some parts of Asia. How are they controlled, or how are they taken over by the European forces? Was it because the Europeans were more than the local people? Or was it the other way around? You have your answers. Uh, the Europeans used what we call pacification using religion, whereby you make the people to trust you. They lower your guard and they do not see your true intentions. And then by the time you open your eyes and realize they have already taken over your resources and your minds, and whoever owns your minds owns you, you have become a willing slave, a fight you can never win. Because if they own your mind, they replace your soul with theirs. And this is unfortunate. It happened in the past. It's history. There is nothing we can do about it. But what can we do today? When you're dealing with a human um, enemy or adversary, for us, it's more to do with competition of resources. The reason why one country is going to attack another is purely based on uh, access to raw materials or resources. It has nothing to do with like, oh, we are very interested in saving them out of their misery or out of their belief systems or whatever. But then there is always the soft means of doing it. Because if you have to use military, then you need a lot of soldiers. You will have a lot of casualties. But then if you are to use religion, for instance, you don't have any casualties. The only casualties is the mental casualties. So I don't want to dig deep in that, but I want to be very specific what I'm talking about. In the world of today, everything is uh, in plain sight. Nothing is hidden anymore, but uh, we cannot actually see it. And if you have the eyes to see, people call you a conspiracy theorist. If you say something, people believe that you must have read it from news sites or whatever. And there's a lot of people nowadays who don't pay attention to the media anymore because the media destroyed itself. When, especially during the past 4 or 5 years, yeah, there is nothing more to trust in the media. You can see it. They say one thing today, tomorrow they change. They say another thing. So nobody takes them seriously. So we can't really say it's because, like I watched CNN or I watched Fox or whatever. That's why I'm saying this. Or I listen to guys like, well, David Icke or whatever. I don't pay attention to that because I think most of these guys they are inauthentic, and I think they are getting information that has already been there, and they make it appear as if it's theirs. And this is why most people tend to distrust. But one way I've learned things is I pay attention to people, um, to my elders. I learn a lot of things, and I know who to trust and who not to trust. And when there was a thing called trust, there was also the ability to see the intentions of other people. You can know if you're intelligent, if you're aware, you know somebody who speaks to you through love or out of love, and someone who is there to take advantage of you. Unless you're an idiot or you're a fool, you can't differentiate the two. And one of the ways that we have been conditioned is to see the worst in each other, such that if I have an experience and I try to share it with someone, all they are going to see is bad intention. They will see me as an enemy who is attacking them. And in that sense, they are not going to pay attention to whatever I have to say. So that's one of the ways that we have been disarmed, that we no longer trust each other. Secondly, it's like we are only programmed to recognize information only coming from certain sources. The sources that have been corrupted because they are governed by people who have no interest in humanity or its love. They have no love for it. They're just here to exploit us uh, in every way they can and to enslave us. And they have no power over us, so they use our own power against us. Because if you're stronger than your enemy, the only way the enemy can win against you is through deception, such a way that through subtle manipulation and control, they make you forget your own power. And then they use that power to turn you against yourself. And this is why everybody in the world is complaining about being enslaved. Nobody is enslaving you. Humanity has been set free from the word go. We, on the other hand, enslave ourselves. And this is one thing that we are not aware of. One is through irrational fear, which is basically constantly being programmed into our subconscious, whereby your instincts say otherwise, but this irrational fear that exists in your mind prevents you from making any move. For instance, you meet another person. If you're truly a person with a good heart, there is a strong desire to connect with another person. So you want to know them. But programming on the other side tells you that person is bad. It will give you all the negative stereotypes towards that person. And this creates a lot of mistrust and a lot of hostilities, which is why, even though we have advanced as a civilization, outward we have advanced materially, but inwards we haven't. We are still primitive because the forces that came, they're bringing us together. They're also tearing us apart. A human being, you cannot dissect a human being to know them. What basic science or whatever intellect does, because intellect, to study a tree, you have to cut it. You want to see the number of rings, you want to see all that. So you cannot study that tree without destroying it. And it's the same thing with when it comes to human beings. You cannot study people without finding something to hate them about. And this is what we talk about love. But what is love? Love is embracing people. It's like you embrace the tree. You never cut the tree. You would nurture that tree. If you embrace a flower, you're not going to pluck that flower. You're going to water it so you can enjoy the beauty of it. And this is something that we have lost. Everything has become a subject of study. People have become a subject of study. It's all about numbers and statistics. And we are using these to justify our arguments against people. We find reasons this way to hate people. But is that something natural to any human spirit? If you're aware of yourself, there is no difference between your spirit and my spirit. There's no such thing. We all have the same spirit. And this is why we say humanity originates from the same consciousness. So I cannot do something bad to you without hurting myself. And this is one thing that we are ignorant about. Because people always say that you have to be you are who you are because of who you're brought up to be. That's true, and it's not true. On the outward, we are a product of our own societies, our own social, environmental, and cultural conditioning, and we take these identities, and that's on the shallow level. But who we are on the inside, we are more intelligent than we are willing to admit. We have the power to transcend all that. You're not a good person because you go to church or you go to a mosque. You're a good person because of what comes out of you. And the same thing, that which comes out of you defiles you. It's that which is inside of you that expresses itself on the outward level. But if you're disconnected from yourself, you're no longer a living person, but you are a living corpse. You are a cyborg to be programmed, to be controlled by social programs of those who design them, such that they will tell you to go and kill another person and you do it. And that way you don't feel anything. But so long you have a conscience, you're aware of it, you hurt another person, it pains you, you feel the pain. So what we are conditioned to do is to numb ourselves of our own true feelings when it comes to certain things. And because of this, we no longer feel anything when we hurt other people. And this is what is happening in the planet. The only things that we get hurt is all about our feelings. But what are feelings? Where do they originate from? Do they originate from the intelligent part of you or from the programmed part of you? We say feelings are from the body, and the body will betray you when the moment you identify with it, because it would betray the intelligence that is within you. It will disconnect you from your true self, from your true experience. And you find yourself, the more you dwell on your feelings, the more you become stupid. You make irrational decisions, which are going to hurt you, and they're going to hurt the people around you. On the metaphysical part of it, it's something that I'll have to go to in details. I think, personally, religions have not touched in a lot of areas because they are designed that way. But if you have an understanding, you realize something is always hidden in that which you read on the print side. So you can never take everything literally. It has to do with understanding. And the moment you understand something, that's when you find that which is lacking. But so long you don't understand anything, and you just accepting blindly whatever you're presented with as truth, that means you'll always be blind. I'll give an example. Christians of today don't know who Christ is. And that quest was given up a long time ago, when they accepted that Jesus was just a man who was born as a child and raised up to be an adult, and who died and went away. They do not know about the Christ that was in the man, the Christ that can be found even today. So people, what they find through the Gospels is just hallucinations. It's not a true experience. And that's why they cannot heal diseases. They cannot do any miracles. They cannot perform anything because that power no longer dwells in them, because they dwell in their in these fake part of themselves. That's why they have to bend to whoever owns the hospitals, whoever owns all these places, and that's why they are being exploited, and they don't see it. Because nowadays it's like you have to pay for even the basic things. And I won't be surprised in the future you might have to pay for the air we breathe. Because right now we have to pay for to live in this continent or in this planet. You have to work yourself so hard. Sometimes you have no time to rest just to pay your basic needs. So it means you're living a slave life, slavish life. And you have all these deceptions like, oh, you become successful, you do this and that. Sounds familiar? Work hard, you become rich, you be one at the top or whatever. Isn't it the same way religion nowadays does? Tells you if you're a good person, you shall be rewarded. But that which you have to be rewarded out of your act, that's corrupted. It's not truth. There's no salvation in that. And for people who have watched shows like The Good Place, and if you have an understanding of philosophy, you will see it's actually quite accurate. If we are saved on the basis of our morality, then we are doomed, because there is no such thing as a perfect person on this planet. Instead, what has been corrupted is salvation only comes through knowledge, because without that knowledge and awareness, if you don't know who, for instance, your prophets are, where they come from, what is this that they are promising, what is this meaning of this message, if you have no idea of who your prophet is or your teacher is, then you're doomed. And whatever people take as authentic these days is not authentic. Any written material has always been manipulated and lost in translations. So it can never be the source of authenticity. So I know your beliefs confuse you otherwise, but truth is something different. Truth is not going to bend your way or the other way. It doesn't favor anyone. It doesn't stand with anyone. It cannot be owned. And that's why those people who appoint themselves as messengers of God can never be the source of truth. They can never deliver it. Because it's very simple. You see, in the, what do I call it? I'll go back to the Judeo-Christian times when they used to speak of the Gentiles. And there's a part where Christ says, you see, unto the Gentiles, those who rule them, lord over to them, and they exercise their authority over to them. So basically, there is the ruler and a slave. There was no such thing as a servant, like the ruler being the servant. And you see it even today with the royal families and those whoever, like who are at the top, even with the government and all that. Those people, they're always protected 24/7 with security. You can never be allowed even to go close to them. You will die. So they exercise their authority unto you. So they can never be the vessels of truth or the vessels of salvation. They can only enslave you. But if you rely on the truth to come from them, then you'll never be able to perceive it. You'll never see it. And this is the same thing you find even in religious institutions. Those people who stand as leaders in these institutions, they think they are better than those they rule. In other words, they are the only appointed vessels to deliver God's message. Truth is a very strange thing because when you expect God to speak through the person you adore and worship, God will speak to you through someone you hate and look down at, someone you can never respect. There were two beings, and they have always been the case. They are beings who come through the channels of power. They come from the top. They come as generals. They come in there. They live in palaces, and they live in these exclusive areas. They are very rich. They are very powerful, and those are usually the false prophets or the messengers of error. And there are others. The greatest people you find, they'll come as janitors. They'll come as street dwellers, and these are the least admirable people on the planet. And those are the people who bring truth to the world. And that's the irony of it. The people you expect to be all powerful or are pure as the vessels of truth, they aren't. Because if you are to be a leader, you have to be the servant of all. And this is what they say the beginning of the path is love and goodness. And who loves you? Is it a person who just sees you as an opportunity, as a means to an end? Or is it a person who embraces you, regardless of your situation or condition? So, yeah, I mean, it's another topic for another day. But what I'm talking about is the enemy. Uh, our generation has become very docile. We have been disarmed of our ability to discern things because that's where our strength comes in. Is our ability to make rational or proper judgments. Let me say not rational, but proper judgment. The reason why I say it's not about rational is because recently or nowadays, you can take two opposing sides with valid arguments, and they are both justifiable. But what does that make you? Incapable of making a choice. Because you see these and you see that, and you can't tell the difference. So at the end of it, you're like, what's the point? Yeah, we have two bad guys running for presidency. They both qualify. They are both unqualified. So it doesn't matter who I vote or I don't vote. And this is not a proper way of living, especially when you're dealing with important things in life. You have to be able to discern between right and wrong. Just because it's the it has nothing to do with being open-minded. We are actually encouraged to be open, to know, to study, and to understand. For instance, you have to understand creation. And creation has to do with elements. If you don't know about matter, for instance, if you don't know about fire, for instance, you don't know about the artificial spirit of the wind. If you don't know the elements or the components of the material universe or the illusions universe, if you do not understand this, you'll never understand creation. And this is the shortcomings of our science today, because they are only focused on one aspect of study. They are studying the material illusion, but not anything else. And this way, you think you can grasp the real nature of the universe. You can never do that. And we say the spirit transcends the universe, the created universe. That's what true power is. But so long you're stuck in your materialism and your way of thinking, you'll never grasp reality beyond your senses. And means that you're trapped in your body. And if you identify with that, the body will gain mystery over you. So at the end of it, you have no contact, you have no access to your power. We say God is spirit. But how can you reach God if you're material? That which is perishable can never inherit the imperishable. They cannot associate with each other. And you can look for any evidence or whatever. What is evidence? We can see the same thing, but what we draw out of our observation will be very different. But conformity dictates that we all see the same things, and this is what dogma does. This is why we are in conflict with each other. Because if I disagree with the majority, then I'm the bad one, I'm the evil one. There is, for the sake of living in our material universe, is what we call logic. And our societies are founded on simple logic. For instance, male, female, negative, positive is a duality universe. But this specifically relates to our material existence so that things can function. This is why, this is how you build a society. But nowadays, that logic no longer applies. People have become confused. And this is now becoming to everything. They are no longer able to make the distinctions. Like when you come to a person, who are you? Are you these? Am I what you're seeing, or am I that which you do not see? Can you see my thoughts, for instance? Can you see my heart? Can you see my spirit? Can you see my soul? We are just built of layers. And there is the layer that is created by society. This is through cultural, socio-environmental conditioning, or even education. That part can never be genuine, and that part dies when you die, whether you accept it or not. Sensitive areas, like when it comes to death, I've had people I loved. It came their time and we had to bury them. And I've come to question things. Like, why do we spend too much money on the funerals? Sometimes we spend much money on the funerals and hospitals than we spend on improving the quality of life, because of the superstition that people need to be escorted in whatever. So this is how we have been enslaved. We have been exploited with things that don't make any sense. To an enlightened person, the body is nothing. It's just a cloth that you wear and leave it behind. You don't bury a person. The person vacates that body when it's the moment they stop breathing. That spirit is gone. They are not there. If they are there, it's too bad for them, because it means they are trapped in a kind of a purgatory. And this knowledge was there, was basic knowledge for each and every other person. But how comes we are going backwards instead of going forward? Instead of improving that which we have inherited, we are just keep going back in circles and circles and circles. The human intelligence is not increasing. Our awareness is not increasing about the universe. It hasn't. Our knowledge about the universe has not increased at all. Information, on the other hand, has increased. And we are confusing information with knowledge or our awareness. And we think we are becoming better. It's just the mask. But inside, we are still backwards. Unless we wake up and we realize we are living in our own prisons that we have designed for ourselves, and we stop blaming other people for it, and we take charge of our own lives. We have to stop being the victims. Because if you're a child of God, you're not a victim in this world. It doesn't matter how much power the evil has against you, because the power that is in you transcends all the power that is in the world. But when you become the victim, you have surrendered that power to the darkness. And serving the darkness does not make your light brighter. It dulls you, it weakens you, and it makes you into a doormat that everybody else is going to trash on. We fear death, but I thought that was sorted out when Christ died. But how comes people are still afraid of death? Because they have never understood it. You have all had all these signs, all these stories you've heard, but people still are so afraid of death. And it's the fear of death that drives the economy of the world. This is pure poverty, because we have forgotten who we are. and we have associated with things that are dead. And we are living in the world of dead. We are not living in the world of the living. But how would you understand that if you are born dead and you have lived a life of death? So long your consciousness is not awakened, you're a dead person, whether you like it or not. I mean, it's not a word you want to hear. Because nowadays, yeah, we are very selective on the things that we want to hear. All of a sudden, we are offended by anything that we do not agree with. But ask yourself, is that making you intelligent, or is it making you dumb? So I would say a person who awakens your consciousness is a person who makes you ask yourself the right questions, not a person who is giving you answers. Yes, there is dangers in the world, and a lot of people are going to succumb to them. A lot of people are succumbing to them even now at the moment. Yeah, a lot of people have surrendered their own power to the darkness, and because of that, they have become enemies of that which is righteous. They no longer have the capacity to speak the sacred, and whenever they hear the sacred, they are outraged by it. They are in agreement with the world, but they are in disagreement with that which is sacred. The moment you conform to the world is the moment you have surrendered all your power and all your life to it. What is true repentance is actually denouncing the world. But people always come up with arguments like, I live in the world, how do I renounce it? I have to eat, I have to drink. This is what I mean. Unless you understand what you're composed of, then you'll never grasp the meaning of this. Your lower person will always try to justify everything while ignoring the connection with the higher person. Because I see the greatest lives within you or within me, and also the lowest. You have that possibility of descending to the lowest of all creation, and you become a dormant. Everything will work against you, and you have the ability to transcend all. And this is why I talk about the level of consciousness. It's not something that can be induced from outside. It has more to do with awakening that which is within. If you're expecting a savior to come from the skies or from the seas or from whatever, then you're doomed. Because whoever comes is going to come and enslave you. And this is what is going to happen in the near future. Because people have been disarmed mentally and psychologically. They have been conditioned to believe in things which are not real. But let me ask you a question. If Christ could appear in a human form, what makes you think that the devil could not appear as a human form? That's one question. If we are all spirits, we appear in human form. What makes you think that the demons do not walk among us as human beings? You cannot be able to tell because of looking at a person. Like, you cannot call a human being because our appearance, our forms is not what makes us human. What makes us human is beyond these material illusion. If we are creation of God, if we are the children of God, everything gives birth to that which is of its own nature. If you're from God, then there is something called within you. But if you're the animal, then you give birth to an animal. And that's what we say. Human is both animal, which is the lowest. Human is psychic. Psychic has to do with the soul and the powers of the universe. And then we have the spirit. And there is always a way to make distinctions between these three. But nowadays, When people came in the beginning, there was nothingness, it was just darkness, and we just evolved from material beings. That was the death of the remaining awareness of the spirit. But I wouldn't blame people like Darwin. I wouldn't blame anybody for that sense, because people speak from their own understanding and they speak from their own consciousness. But what I'm saying is, whatever makes me conscious is also within you. So whether I'm telling you the truth or a lie should be you should be able to discern it. And without due, uh, I don't want to make very long videos, but I thought it's good to be sharing these kind of things, especially in the world we're living in. And I think people need to wake up, because personally, I am tired of a lot of things. I work hard. I can't tell you where the money I earn goes to, but I cannot see a suffering person and just depart them there. So you have burdens, it becomes a burden to those people who love you. Personally, I don't worry about death. I am not concerned of what I die, what happens to me, to my body. I'll just leave it. It's just a house. I'll leave it, and it will become desolate house, and it will just collapse on its own. I'm not concerned of that. So I found my peace a couple of years ago when I went through depression. I was in the darkness and I found the light. And I understand things, but I'm also a loving and a caring person. Whether I like it or not, I'm connected to other people, because what is in you is in me. I cannot ignore your suffering. And I wish, I don't go to hospitals nowadays. I reached a point and I was like, no, I live by my own faith. I'm a very strong person in that sense. But if someone believes in hospitals, if someone believes in the system that is exploiting them and they have a burden, then I'll feel bad if I don't chop in and help. But I can't help it but notice that all this suffering, all these burdens people are carrying, it's something that can be avoided if we just accept reality, and if we just become open to ourselves and to one another. We just need to destroy these ego, because ego is created. The ego is not something that is authentic you. And what happens to the ego when you die? Ego also dies. So why do you try to save, or why dedicate all your energy trying to save that which will perish? Is that intelligence? So why feed into your ego all the time? Why feed into your feelings, into your desires? Because this is how people are succumbing. And this is what the world feeds on. The world will feed you based on those lower instincts, not the higher instincts. The world does not look for your intelligence. It's looking for your stupidity, for your ignorance, because that's what empowers the darkness. It's your ignorance, not your light. And without much to say, we say, yeah, too much is not good. So I'll end this video, and I'm looking forward to sharing. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to other people, and I learn from them. And I wish also I can contribute towards others who are in this journey like I am in. Because if we are all headed to the same destination, that makes us friends, not foes. And that means we should be more united than fighting each other because of these petty things. We should be willing and openly willing to raise the consciousness of those around us, not to judge them as unworthy or as a stupid person. Because if God allows a good person to live and a bad person to live, God has not judged. But we as humans, we have judged. We are the ones who think those people are unworthy. And we are the ones who kill them. We're not doing God's job. We are doing our jobs. and in the process we are destroying ourselves. You kill a person, you destroy your own soul. And these I will speak in details on another chart, that how the law of cause and effect destroys you. And which is why the elites or the intelligent people don't do the dirty work themselves, but they send the foot soldiers or the people who have very low consciousness, who only know how to be slaves, to do the dirty work. And I will say, peace be with you all, and hope to see some words or opinions from you. I'm always open to that. Thank you.